Hello everyone, today we are going to tell the story of the Great Fire of Edinburgh. How are you all? Hope you're all happy and healthy and well. Today seems to have taken a turn for bad weather. Today is definitely taking a dip in temperature, and it's raining on and off, so and the bells of St Giles are going at 12 o'clock. Is it 12 o'clock? Half 11, better. But yeah, today I thought I'd tell the story of the Great Fire of Edinburgh. But there's a build up to this story. There's more to it than just the Great Fire of Edinburgh, and it's got to do with this statue right beside me here of this gentleman. That's James Braidwood. James Braidwood created the first ever municipal fire brigade anywhere in the world here in Edinburgh. Edinburgh had the first municipal fire brigade anywhere in the world. There's a plaque on the back here, so we'll read that first. James Braidwood, 1800 to 1861. This statue is dedicated to the memory of James Braidwood, a pioneer of the scientific approach to firefighting. It also recognises the courage and sacrifice of firefighters, not only in Lothian Borders Fire and Rescue Service, but all over the world. There were fire brigades all over the world, going back to Roman times. There were people who would fight a fire. It's not saying it's the very first time ever in the 1800s that people went, we should really, put a team together whose job it is to fight fires. It's like someone else went, that's a good idea, because my house keeps burning down and nobody comes and puts it out, and I have to keep building it. Yeah, don't you think it's a good idea? It's a good idea. We'll have sort of fire team. We'll have a team of firemen. That's kind of what the conversation must have been like. But no, there was people who existed before. In fact, the Great Fire of London in the 1600s, that created the sort of insurance teams to fight fires, and then London had them and Edinburgh had them, where you could insure your building against fire, and that insurance company, that's what they would do. They were an insurance company against fire. They would send out a team to put out the fire if your building caught fire, and I think they would look after the buildings either side of you as well if one of them caught fire, because obviously if one of them catches fire, your building's going to catch fire. But it wasn't the greatest system in the world. What was I saying? Yeah, so you can get these teams that would insure against fire. So your building would be marked to say that this team looks after this building in case there's a fire. And the only plaque, the only marking that I think still exists on these buildings is at the bottom of Coburn Street. So we'll quickly nip down there to show you that plaque. Very, very quickly. So this is the bottom of Coburn Street. Obviously that leads straight up to the Royal Mile right there, just in case you're wondering. That's Market Street, Edinburgh Dungeon right there. Another part of Market Street heading towards the top of the mound, and then, Scott Monument, Waverley Bridge, Princes Street, just so you know where we are. So this building we're looking at, right in the corner of Coburn Street, which is the Edinburgh Military Tattoo gift shop / office kind of thing, which used to be, you can see the Coburn Hotel right there. Who knows however long ago that was, but actually what we're looking at is this plaque right here. So I'm sure one of you will tell me if I'm wrong, but I was told that this plaque represents one of the insurance companies that used to look after the buildings. This was one of the fire insurance companies. So that plaque on there meant that building was covered by that company. So essentially that would be looked after by that fire brigade, and so would that one, because if that one caught fire, it's probably going to catch on to that one, and then the first building around the corner would do the same. So there was plaques like that on the building. The way it used to work is your building caught fire, there would be lots of these insurance companies that specialise in this fire. They would come out to see the fire and see what was going on, see which building it was, because there would be a few buildings all here, all covered by various different companies. The only issue with this problem, this way of dealing with fires, is if insurance fire company came down and saw that building was on fire, and they had all the equipment to put out a fire as much as they had for the time, but it wasn't their company, they would stand by and watch until that other fire brigade got there. And they wouldn't help. They would be waiting to see if the fire was going to spread to a building that would damage one of the buildings that they were insured to look after. So it could be like half an hour, 40 minutes, an hour before the right fire brigade arrived, and that building could be seriously damaged by that point, you know what I mean? So it wasn't the greatest system in the world. So eventually, here in Edinburgh, they went, well, this doesn't work. And James Braidwood led the first municipal fire team. 2 weeks after it was formed, the Great Fire of Edinburgh happened. So before we really get into this story, I'll tell you the account that I've read of how this fire started and what led on and happened. However, to remind you all, I am not a historian, okay? I'm sure some people will argue with the facts that I'm telling you. I'm not a historian, this is just the story I know of it or that I've read of it. So, accounts may differ. This is Old Assembly Close right here, and this is apparently where the fire started. So at 10 p.m. on the 15th of November 1824, a fire caught fire on the second floor of the building here. It was James Kirkwood's engraving caught fire. Now, I don't know second floor if they counted that as ground floor and that as first floor, which makes that the second floor, or if that's the first floor, making that the second floor. So either that floor or that floor caught fire. The newly formed fire brigade, my head's saying 2 weeks, but maybe it was 2 months that they'd been set up. Either way, they arrived quite quickly on the scene. There was a problem though. They got on the scene and they couldn't find a nearby water supply to put out the fire. So although the fire started at 10 o'clock, they arrived here, they went, there's no water. We've no water to put out the fire. So they had to start searching for a nearby decent water supply. And I know that that's the wellheads there, which was drinking water, but I'm guessing that just wasn't enough water for to put out a fire. Or maybe that was put in afterwards. I don't know, being right opposite the close. I don't know. They didn't actually get started fighting the fire till 11 o'clock. So the fire's been raging for an hour now. And it's actually taken up 6 floors of the fire. Now right now it's only including the ground floor, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 floors. So it's a different building now, obviously. And it was obviously a lot taller at the time as well. Remember, Edinburgh, first skyscrapers in the world. The fire had started to spread. So it started here. All of this is on fire now, and it's starting to spread. The account says to the east of Fish Market Close. Now that close there is east. That one there, sorry, is Fish Market Close. So all of this is now on fire, or catching fire. The embers and the flames are starting to spread, and it's now starting to go down the hill as well, heading towards the Cowgate. So all the buildings behind and down the hill are now starting to catch fire as well. So the fire's starting to get out of control. The old assembly hall, which gives its name to the close, is destroyed by midnight, and by midday the next day the fire is down here and is starting to spread to the Tron Kirk. So in just over 12 hours it started here, it started to spread up there, and it's going down the hill towards the Cowgate, and all of this is on fire as well, heading to the Tron Kirk. The firefighters did apparently manage to get up to the roof, but the fire was so fierce that they got forced back down. They couldn't do much. And after 24 hours, the blaze is up this way and starting to head towards Parliament Square. So we're 24 hours in now, and all of this is still on fire and spreading that way towards Parliament Square. So I think by this time, 24 hours in, they had started to get a little bit under control, possibly going by accounts. Maybe it wasn't all a towering blaze, but there were still things on fire. But it started to catch fire over here. Some people were saying it was God intervening for bad behaviour, saying, you know, the fire must keep running. Some people say it was just bad luck, and some people think it was possibly started deliberately and being hidden by the fact that there was already a fire. Truth is, it was probably just embers, hot embers blowing from the ash and the rest of the fire, which then started to catch fire over here. Now remember, this is Parliament Square. Parliament was there at the time, or at least all Parliament buildings, which were possibly law offices by then. I can't remember by my dates. Forgive me, I'm rambling. I'm starting to get on a roll now. So we're at the corner of Parliament Square now, and this is where the statue of James Braidwood is. They're getting worried about the law offices, the old Parliament buildings catching fire, but truthfully what they're really worried about is the fire jumping the street and starting to set fire to St Giles Cathedral here, and apparently there was some scorch marks, but they've been repaired long ago on the building here as well. But this is their main issue now. They don't want the old Parliament building and law offices to catch fire, and they don't want St Giles to catch fire. We're on to Wednesday now. We're on to day 3 of the fire, and accounts say by that point it was a wild ablaze. So I'm going to guess that they never actually managed to put that out, and it was obviously the embers that came over this way and started to spread. But by Wednesday at 5 AM, the day 3 of the fire, it is still going wild. In total, they kept fighting the fire because it's heading down the hill towards the Cowgate. There's a lot of buildings going down that way, a lot of tall buildings. They're fighting it here, they're fighting it from spreading down to the Tronkirk. The roof of the Tronkirk, the bell of the Tronkirk, the tower collapsed at one point. The whole thing went collapsing down. Truthfully, they can't really say that they got the fire properly under control and it was starting to settle down until Friday the 21st. It started on Wednesday the 15th and raged until the 21st. So that's like 6 days of fire, almost a week of the city being on fire. The blaze was apparently huge. People were coming from miles around to see it, although you could probably see it from miles around anyway, but people wanted a close look, you know what I mean? Engineers and people from Edinburgh Castle and things were brought to tear down the buildings because they were ruined. All of that area, all of this area of the Royal Mile had to be completely rebuilt. So although these buildings are old, that section there had to be completely torn down and rebuilt. And I think probably if you look at the buildings, you can probably guess which sections had to be completely ripped down. I've never actually looked under this context before, but you can see a difference in the brickwork there of the two buildings, definitely from there to there, which is how far I knew it was getting up to, and the embers started to go over to there to try to catch fire, which they tried to stop it from going on to Parliament Square and things. This must be older, but that must be the line there of how far the fire got, and all the way down there. You can see a difference in the buildings, and obviously the Tronkirk Tower had to be completely rebuilt, and they gave it a different look apparently. Apparently it was very, very different at first, but that caught fire, and the tower collapsed. Steeple, is that a steeple? Probably a steeple. Once the fire had been got under control, there was an inquiry as to why it had taken, such a toll on the city, how this new fire brigade hadn't managed to put it out quicker. It turns out that there was still some old rules and old laws as to when the fire started, who was actually in charge on site, because obviously there was all these older laws that still covered the insurance companies that used to cover the fire. So different people had came down and were giving the firefighters orders as to how to fight at 12 o'clock. And all's well. So different people were coming down and ordering the firefighters what to fight. So they were running about mad trying to follow all these orders, and all these people are spouting different orders to them. So that's how they never really got a handle on it. And truthfully, the attempts that they made, although valiant, probably would have been just as well as letting it put itself out and trying to stop it from spreading. Eventually these rules were then abolished, and it was changed so that James Braidwood, the leader of the firefighter, would be the person in charge. This rule then spread around Britain to be how fires were fought, because James Braidwood then moved down to London and started the first municipal fire brigade in London as well. And then I think the way that these fire brigades were then set up then started to spread round Britain and round the rest of the world to becoming how fire brigades as we know them today, all because of how it started here. The other thing that was added in was more firefighting water points. Lots more, almost 80 odd were added in. So many more to help fight the fires. But that is kind of a very abbreviated, very, very abbreviated story of the Great Fire of Edinburgh and how it affected the world of firefighting today, to this day. But yeah, assembly close, fire start. We're going to abbreviate really more now. Assembly close, fire starts to spread up old buildings. After an hour, the fire brigade have got no water. It starts to spread that way, but truthfully, it really, really starts to spread downhill. Probably those same directions the wind was blowing, to the point where it hit the Tronkirk. There's a road there splitting it, so it probably couldn't continue on further down. I'm guessing. I wasn't there. The fire started to go down the hill backwards, and they managed to stop it from hitting Parliament Square really. However, it did scorch the side of St Giles Cathedral, which has since been repaired. all of this had to be completely rebuilt, deciding in effect that who should be in charge during a fire. The municipal fire brigade, everything that was used was replaced, and it was given more funding to then, start to fight fires. The rules were changed so that people knew who was in control. More water spouts were given round city to help fight fires, and this led on to how firefighting was then set up in London and then the rest of the world. So the rest of the world has now got fire brigades, generally based on the fact that Edinburgh had a great big massive fire. Does that all make sense? So there you have it, the story of the Great Edinburgh Fire, the first municipal fire brigade in the world, and how it affected how fires are fought all around the world today. Not a bad story, not a bad story at all. I hope you've enjoyed that, guys. If you have, as always, leave a like, leave a comment, and if you haven't already, please remember to hit that subscribe button. It would be an honour if you would help us get to 10,000. We are just over 200 people away right now from 10,000 subscribers. But wherever you are, look after yourself. Till next time, bye humans.